everyone, I'm Debbie and welcome back to Book and Bujo. Today I am diving into a mid-year series check-in. Can you believe we've already made it halfway through the year? I can't believe it is July already. It's crazy. I guess time flies when you're lost in the world of books. So let's take a minute to see where I am with some of the series that I've been reading. So let's do a quick recap of the top series that I want to finish this year in 2024 and see how I'm progressing. So at the beginning of the year, I did make a list of the top 10 series that I would like to finish this year. First up is the Slip series by David Estes, and this is a dystopian sci-fi series, and I am happy to say I did complete this one. So there's 3 books in the series, Slip, Grip, and Flip, and I just finished the last book this year, and it is a great series. If you like sci-fi and dystopian books, definitely got to check them out. Next up is the Percy Jackson Universe by Rick Riordan. I have read 3 more of these books this year. So I just finished the 3rd and final book in the Magnus Chase and the Gods of Asgard series. So that section of the universe is complete. And I have read 1 more book in the Trials of Apollo series, but I have 2 more left to go for that one. And I have 12 more books total in the universe. So that includes some of the companion novels, as well as some of the new releases that have come out in the last couple of years. So I believe there are 33 books total in the series so far, and I read 21 of them previously. So that's like the actual original Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief, the Heroes of Olympus, and getting introduced to Jason and Piper and all of those books. So I've read those. The Percy Jackson original 5 I've read multiple times. They're so good. And some of the others I've only read once. I am definitely still loving this series and I can't wait to continue. Next up is of Cinder and Bone, and that is a 5-book series that has 1 novella with it, and that is by Kyoko M. And this is another sci-fi book where there is cloning of dragons, and it is so much fun. I love it. I love the characters, the adventure. You kind of have this like mafia kind of group that's like trying to steal the information to be able to clone their own dragons, and then you have the original scientists who wanted to do this in a very controlled manner and a very loving manner towards the animals. And it's definitely some interesting dynamics throughout all of the different characters. There is, as you get further into the book, books 2 and 3, you get a polyamorous relationship going on, and it's just so much fun. I love this series. So I have completed 3 of them, so I have 2 more to go. The next one of Fury and Fangs is on my July TBR, so I should be getting to that one. And then I also have the novella left. Series number 4 on my list is The Bound and the Broken, which I have hiding back here behind me. And that one I have read half the series so far. So I've read the first 2 novellas and the first 2 books. I still have the next book and novella to go before the 4th book comes out in early 2025, and I cannot wait. I just did a reread of the first 4 books, and so the prequel novella, book 1, book 2, and then the Exile, which is the next novella in the series. I do own Of War and Ruin, and I do own The Ice. I will be getting to those soon. Series number 5 on my list is Spellslinger by Sebastian de Castell. So there are 13 books total in the series. 7 of them are the actual novels, and then 6 of them are either novellas or companion novels that go along with it. I have read the first one, so I did get it started, but I still have a ways to go. I'm not sure if I will finish this one by the end of the year, but I will at least get 1 more book into it, I hope. Series number 6. This is one I really want to read, but I have not started it yet. I'm trying to decide if I should go ahead and start it, at least get it going, or just hold off another year. But I already put it off a year, but do I hold off and try and finish some other series? I don't know. What do you think? That is The Memoirs of Lady Trent by Marie Brennan, and this one looks like it's just so much fun and interesting. It's kind of set up like somewhat of a journal of Lady Trent, somewhat encyclopedia-ish. I don't know, it just sounds kind of interesting. And some of the books, I mean, you get to know about dragons, you get to know about basilisks, and some other just really cool fantasy creatures. So I'm very intrigued, and I kind of want to at least read the first book before the end of the year. The Kingfall Histories, also by David Estes. He is one of my favorite authors, and I do have a fate marked right up here. The first book, the rest of them I have on my Kindle, but that one is a 5-book series, high epic fantasy, and it is amazing. But it is a dark fantasy, and the interactions between the characters, the way the different realms come together and the different countries, how they interact with each other, the battles and the wars and everything else that's going on is just so amazing. Definitely recommend it. But we're talking about Kingfall Histories. So similar to Fate Marked, it is set in the same world, a totally different area of the world. So Fate Marked was like up in this area of the map, and Kingfall Histories is like over here on the map. Not literally, but just to give you somewhat of a visual. And this is a 5-book series, and the whole series is complete already. And I have read the first 3, and I am loving it. I love how David Estes can take multiple main characters, we're talking like 6 to 10 main characters, and somehow you don't get confused about who's who. You're not overwhelmed by all these different point of views. You just are there for the ride. Like you get like an entire chapter, like a whole section that's just from this point of view, and then he tells you, okay, now we're moving to this point of view, and then we get that section, and just how all of them come together by the end of the book, and it just all makes sense, and I love it. He is definitely a master of character work and weaving everyone in together, and the magic system is really interesting as well. Definitely give it a read. I have 2 books left, and I will finish this one before the end of the year. Series number 8 on my list of 10 is Songs of Chaos by Michael R. Miller, and I have read the first 2 books and the novella so far. There's one more book that's out, and then the 4th book comes out in early 2025. So I'm trying to get through all of the ones that are already released before the end of the year, so then I can read the 4th book when it comes out next year. So the Songs of Chaos, the main characters, Holt and Ash, just their characters just leap off the page. Like they just become so real. And I would somewhat compare Holt and Ash in Songs of Chaos to Fitz and Night Eyes in The Realm of the Elderlings. Now this is a much shorter book series than The Realm of the Elderlings, and Robin Hobb is superb at her characterization and building her characters. But I feel like my connection to Holt and Ash was just as good as it was to Fitz and Night Eyes, so I highly recommend it. Series number 9 is The Mother of Learning by Domagoj Krmiak. So I did finish this first book, but I am still waiting on books 2, 3, and 4 to come in from the Kickstarter campaign that I supported. But those aren't supposed to come until January. So I may or may not get to finish this series before the end of the year. If I can find it from my library, or if I can find it somewhere, I will definitely get to volume 2 before I can get my books next year. And that is such a fun series. I love it. Lastly, the Winternight Trilogy by Catherine Arden. I read The Bear and the Nightingale a few years ago, and this year I did finish The Girl in the Tower, and so I have just the 3rd and final book, which is The Winter of the Witch, left to go. I'm not sure why it took me so long to get this book, because my library definitely has them, so I need to get to that one before the end of the year and finish out that series. It's more of a slow historical fantasy, so it's not real fast paced. The first book is slow paced. I would say the second book is a little more medium paced. Medium to medium slow. It's definitely a little faster paced than the first one, so we'll see how the 3rd book lines up with the other 2. So overall, I'm doing fairly good. So all of these more salmon colored, terracotta colored dots are the ones that I've read in previous years, and all of the teal dots are the books that I have read this year in the series. So we're getting there. I still have quite a ways to go to finish out these series. So progress update, where am I just in series in general that I've actually been reading this year. So there are a couple series that I just started this year and I am getting close to finishing those out. This is definitely not an exhaustive list. This is just a smattering of some of the series that I'm reading. So if you want to see a deep dive into every series that I have started, the ones I've DNF'd and the ones I am still progressing through, let me know down in the comments, because I will definitely do that for you. But just a little spoiler, it's probably over 100 series. In July, I will be continuing the Villains series with Vengeful by V.E. Schwab. I finished Vicious already, and so now I'm going on to Vengeful, and I believe there is one novella out that goes along with this series that I have not read yet. So that's the only one I still have to go for that series, and it will be complete. I do still need to continue the Fortuna Sworn series by K.J. Sutton. I'm on the third book, which is Deadly Dreams, but that one is a little bit lower on my priority list. There's definitely some other series I want to finish before I go to that one, because I do like this series, but I don't love this series. So if I don't get to it this year, I am just fine with that. If you disagree and you think I should get to it sooner, let me know. Yeah, and here is just some of the series that I am currently working through, but I have a lot more. I also desperately want to get to Lightbringer, which is the 6th book in the Red Rising series by Pierce Brown, but I'm waiting until the 7th and final book comes out. Red God, I believe it's called, and I think it comes out in January. There's a whole lot of books in January, February, March that are coming out of 2025 that I really want to read. So we'll see how first quarter of 2025 stacks up for me. I'm sure I'm going to have a huge book stack for those months. So I do want to do a full reread of the Red Rising series, and I will most likely do that next year so I can read the series in its entirety. It is definitely one of my favorite series. So good. I also need to get to Night's Shadow, which is the 2nd book in the Greatcoats series by Sebastian de Castell. So I did get to the 1st book this year and I really enjoyed it. I love the humor and the sarcasm and everything, and the action. It's a lot of fun. If you liked Kings of the Wild, you would probably like the Greatcoats series, or vice versa. If you like the Greatcoats series, you would probably like Kings of the Wild series as well. Oh, that's another series I need to get to. I need to read Bloody Rose still by Nicholas Eames. I also need to get to the 3rd book in A Chorus of Dragons series by Jen Lyon. So this series was very intimidating for me. So after reading the 1st book, I was like, oh my gosh, this is a lot. It's very confusing. Not quite sure what's going on. I really enjoyed it, but it took me a year to get to the 2nd book. And once I did, I was like, oh my gosh, why am I so intimidated? This is a great series. I had no problem understanding the 2nd book. Now, it did help that before I went into the 2nd book, I read J.D. Ray Reid's synopsis of the 1st book. So she basically goes through the 1st book chapter by chapter, full spoilers, and lets you know every single thing that happened in that book. And that helped a lot. So I watched that, and then I read the 2nd book, and I had no issues at all understanding what was going on. So I definitely need to get to The Memory of Souls, which is the 3rd book, and I should do that sooner rather than later so I don't forget everything that I remember from the first 2 books. I am almost done with The First Law World by Joe Abercrombie. This is the 3rd and final book in the Age of Madness series, and I have just 1 book left to go, I believe, that's in the series, and I can't wait. I loved the First Law Trilogy, the first 3 books. I totally enjoyed all of the standalone books. The short story collection was decent, but I am loving the Age of Madness series, and I can't wait to see what the last and final book has to offer. I am this far into the book so far, so I have a lot to go, but I will have this finished fairly soon, and we'll finish the final book, which is The Great Change, before the end of the year. And I don't know why some of the books I hold up totally changed my lighting. Interesting. I also want to get caught up with a couple other series that don't have all of the books released yet, and that is The Serpent Gates by A.K. Larkwood, and I want to read the second book, which is The Thousand Eyes, and I do have that on my July TBR. And the other one is the Silent Gods series by Justin Call, and that is The Master of Artifices. I really enjoyed the first book in the series, and I'm excited to get to the second one, although I have heard some mixed reviews on it. Some say it's really slow, and some say it's a little confusing, but others really love it, so I am looking forward to seeing what I think of it. I have read the first 2 books in the Cradle series, and I do own the third book on my Kindle, and these are by Will Wight, and I enjoyed the series so far, the first 2 books, but I haven't loved it, and it hasn't really gripped me as much as I was hoping it would, so I keep putting that series off, but I really do need to at least get to that third book since I own it and get that off of my series TBR. I do know there's 12 books in the series. We'll take it 3 books at a time. We'll see what I think after the third book. There is a series that I started a couple of years ago, and that's the Lyra novels by Patricia C. Weird. And I loved the first book. I thought it was really interesting. It had a great magic system, and the storyline was interesting. The second book was okay, so we'll see how the third book goes. So the first 3 books are somewhat interconnected, so it's part of the same world, but you're following different characters in each of the 3 books. So you can read each of them as a standalone, but there are some little Easter eggs in there of characters like, oh, I remember that character, or I remember that situation. But if you haven't read any of the other ones, then it doesn't really matter. And then I think it picks up more in the 4th, 5th books. It picks up more of the actual storyline and is more continuous as a series. But the first 3 books in the series are kind of more standalones. But I would like to continue with it because it is interesting. One of the other series that can be really confusing, but so good, and that is the Locked Tomb series by Tamsin Muir. And I have read Gideon the Ninth and Harrow the Ninth, and that's as far as I've gotten. So I do still need to read None of the Ninth, and then when Electo the Ninth comes out, I definitely want to read that as well. And I believe there's a couple of little novellas or short stories that are in there somewhere too, and I would like to pick all of those up at some point. I just haven't gotten to it yet. I loved Gideon the Ninth. I liked Harrow the Ninth. Not as much. I definitely liked Gideon's character much more than I liked Harrow, but it was still interesting, but yet very confusing. Yeah. I still recommend the series. It's really good. It's trippy and weird, and I loved it. Another series that I started and haven't continued with, and that is the Firstborn Academy. This is a YA fantasy series by Isla Frost. Isla Frost? Isla Frost. I think it's Isla Frost. And it was cute. Yeah, it's a good YA light academia book series. And I need to see if my library has the second book, Shadow Witch, because I do want to continue with the series. I got the first one through one of my Prime Reading borrows, and I don't know if I like the series enough to purchase the second book. I think I'd rather read it from my library first, and then if I liked it, then I would end up purchasing the full series. The next series that I also tried, it was like a random audiobook I found on Hoopla. And I love this series. I don't know why it's taking me so long to get back to it. It's super fun, following twins that have paranormal powers. This is definitely kind of a paranormal, I guess you could say paranormal romance, although there's not a ton of romance. It's paranormal mystery. Let's go with that one. Paranormal cozy mystery, I guess. It has some romance in there too, but you're following twins that have specific gifts where they can either see or talk to or interact with ghosts in some way. And that's the Gateway Trackers series by E.E. Holmes. And the original book series is a 3-book series, and it's the Gateway Trilogy, and I have not actually read those. So I ended up in the second section of the series. I believe there's 6 books in that series, and that's the Gateway Tracker series. But I don't think you necessarily need to read the first 3 books in the Gateway Trilogy in order to read the Gateway Trackers series. E. Holmes explains the characters really well in the first book that I didn't even realize it was the second part of a series until I was like partway through the book, and I was like, oh, I guess maybe I should read that. So I do need to get to that series as well, but I would like to get to Awakening of the Seer, which is the 3rd book in the Gateway Tracker series, sometime this year. They're definitely quick and easy reads. And then I have 10 books left in the Discworld series by Terry Pratchett. Right here. Just 10 left. So close. We've been reading these with Literary Diversions, has Around the Disc and 800 read along. And we have been reading 2 Terry Pratchett books every month for the last however many months. There's like 41, 42 books. But I've also been adding in all of the short stories. Like book 34, and then you have 34.5, which is a short story, and then book 35. So I've been adding the short stories in along the way, and it's been so much fun. So much fun, but only 10 books left. I am currently on Making Money. I just started this one this morning, and I am not very far. I'm only like 34 pages into it, but they are super quick and easy reads, and I have these on audiobook as well, so I can usually get through them in a day and a half. It's like a 12-hour audiobook, so not too bad. Wheel of Time read along with Sandra from Got a Thing for Things, and we are on book 10, Crossroads of Twilight. So we have 5 books left, 4 books left, 5 books left, plus there's a novella in there somewhere, I believe. So getting really close, and I should have this one finished by the end of the year. So one more big chunky series off my list. A couple more series where I've read the first book this year, but I need to continue and get to at least the 2nd book before the end of the year, and that is the Earthsea Trilogy by Ursula K. Le Guin, and I am up to the Tombs of Atuan. And then the Emaneska Series by Ben Galley, so I read the written, and next up is Pale Kings, and I can't wait to get to these books. I am also almost done with Grimoires of Middle-Aged Witch by Renee George. I've read the first 4 books, and there's 2 books left, and I can't wait to finish this series. It is so much fun. It is just a quick and easy guilty pleasure popcorn read. Palate cleanser, whatever you want to call it. Super fun. They're snarky, and you got some pop culture references in there. So basically you have this 40-something-year-old woman who has recently found out that she is a witch, and she needs to figure out how to use her powers or else they will kill her. So go along for the ride and enjoy a snarky little gnome named Linda that likes to chuck rocks at you. Can't wait to finish this series. Another book I'm almost done with is The Girl and the Moon by Mark Lawrence. This is the 3rd and final book in the Book of the Ice series, and I will finally be done with that entire series. So we started with the Book of the Ancestors, and that was a 3-book series: Red Sister, Gray Sister, Holy Sister. And then you have the Book of the Ice. So you have the Girl in the Stars, the Girl in the Mountain, and the Girl in the Moon. Almost done. So I'm about 52% of the way through. So I will definitely finish that this month and have that one checked off my list. The other fun guilty pleasure cozy mystery book series that I have been reading is The Christmas Tree Farm Mysteries by Jacqueline Frost. And these are so much fun. Just the names are adorable. So we have like Slashing Through the Snow, we have the 12 Sleighs of Christmas, we have The Knife Before Christmas, A Stalking Around the Christmas Tree, and then the final book that I have to read in the series, and that is I'll Be Home for Mischief. These are so much fun. So we follow a young woman who has been jilted at the altar. So her fiance left her basically at the altar, and she goes back home to the Christmas tree farm that her parents run and starts working for them again and tries to put her life back together. Of course, there's always someone who is murdered, and she is not a detective, but for some reason she's got to get her nose into everything and figure out what's going on and who done it. And each of the books has a different mystery that she is trying to solve while not getting killed herself. They are definitely lighthearted, cozy mysteries. There's a few more that I still need to finish that I keep forgetting about for some reason. I don't know why, and that is Saga. I'm up to Saga Volume 6 by Brian K. Vaughan, and I really need to finish this series because I really like it, and I know my library has it, so why haven't I read them? I also need to read the second book in the Winter Song series, and that is by S.J. Jones, and I read the first book last year, and I really need to read Shadow Song this year. And then we're just going to end with this one, and that is A Twist of the Blade by S.M. Gaither, and that is the second book in the Shadows and Crowns series. I did really enjoy the first book, and I'm, again, not sure why it's taken me so long to get to the second book, but I mean, there's so many books. Oh, the other one, the Elf Queen series by J.M. Curl. I have one book left of that one too, and that is Bow Before the Elf Queen. I do enjoy this series, and it kind of left off at a point like I want to know what's happening, but for some reason I keep putting this one off too. I keep forgetting about it, and then I find it, I'm like, oh, I got to put that on, but then it doesn't fit in any of my TBR prompts, and yes, I got to get to this one too. And speaking of favorite books and book series, I have to share some of my favorites with you and give you some recommendations of those I've read so far. So in Kingfall Histories, the epic battle scenes, especially in books 2 and 3, are simply breathtaking. They are so well written. Maybe not Malazan well written, but pretty close. So if you're into action-packed fantasy with some amazing characters, definitely recommend Kingfall Histories. Now, for those who enjoy complex political intrigue and some strong character dynamics, The First Law World is a gem. The relationships between the protagonists and the antagonists make every page turn suspenseful and engaging. I mean, yes, in the First Law Trilogy, the first 3 books, but the Age of Madness, most definitely. And lastly, Grimoires of a Middle-Aged Witch by Renee George has just stolen my heart with its quirky romance subplot, along with this little mystery and her trying to figure out all of her powers. Book 1 is a great start, and books 2 and 3 really find their groove, and then book 4 just keeps it going, and they all had me laughing out loud. And there are so many more books to recommend, but we don't want to be here for that long, so we'll just leave it with those 3 for now. Alright, so as I look ahead to the rest of the year, I'm really excited to see where these series take me. Here are some series that I have my eyes on that I would like to start in the last half of 2024. And that is the Mirror Visitors series by Christelle Dabot, as well as Monsters of Verity by Victoria Schwab. The Bone Witch Saga by Rin Chupeko, I've had my eye on for a while now, but have yet to start it. What do you think? Should I start that one? Or should I wait? The Dandelion Dynasty by Kin Liu. I don't think I want to wait until January of 2025 for me to get my Kickstarter books in. I think I'm going to have to get these from my library and start them sooner rather than later. The Gentleman Bastard series over here, kind of out of camera shots, but the Gentleman Bastard series by Scott Lynch. I definitely need to get to this one, especially since I have these beautiful editions. The Bloodsworn Saga by John Gwynne, which I do have the first book on my Kindle, so I do need to start that one as well. ACOTAR, Crescent City by Sarah J. Maas. I did read Throne of Glass and loved it, so I'm looking forward to starting the other ones, at least the first book in Crescent City. I've heard the second one's okay and the third was eh. We'll see how far I get into it. I do have the first 2 books of Crescent City on my Kindle, but I believe you're supposed to start with at least the first book of ACOTAR first, so I will try and do that. The 5 Warrior Angels series by Brian Lee Durfee. I definitely want to get to that one, at least the Forgetting Moon, the first book, and I will leave his channel linked down below, as well as any other YouTubers that I have mentioned, so you can check out their channels. But he has definitely had a rough year, so go over to his channel and show him some love by subscribing to his channel. Gunmetal Gods by Zamil Akhtar. Also have the first book on my Kindle, and I am getting all of the Kickstarter books that he had in his campaign. Again, those are going to be a little while before they come in, but I do want to get to those ones. Also, Empire of the Vampire, also have that one on my Kindle, at least the first book. Actually, I think I might have both of them. Do I have both? I might have gotten both of them because they were on sale. I think I got them for like $4.99 when they were on sale. I definitely need to get to those as well. Oh, Under the Northern Sky by Leo Carew. I've read the first book, The Wolf, and loved it. I need to get to The Spider and the Cuckoo. And there's just so many series. There's so many series I want to read. They're all so good. Did I mention one of your favorites? Did I not mention one of your favorites? Do you have one that you think I would love to read? Make sure you leave that in a comment down below. And out of all of these series that I mentioned, which series do you think I should prioritize over the others? Let me know down in the comments. And maybe in my next couple TBRs, I will do a random comment generator and pick one of your comments and include that in my TBR for August, September, October, November, and December. Bust through some of these series. And don't forget to share your own progress with me down below. Are there some series that you need some accountability to continue and finish? Maybe we could set up some buddy reads coming up. I am looking into starting a Discord channel, so if we want to do some buddy reads, we can either go over to Fable and set something up, or maybe I will set up some Discord channels and get those started, and we can talk about some of these amazing books there too. That wraps up my mid-year series check-in. Thank you so much for joining me today. Remember to hit that like button if you liked this video and subscribe to my channel for more bookish content. And until next time, keep reading. Bye.